Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. And today I'm here with this week's Pick an Angel card reading. What this is an intuitive, interactive experience where you allow your intuition and your inner guidance to lead you towards the message from your angels this week. We've been going through pivotal times here in 2020. Times that are unprecedented as far as we know in the way of transformation and what it offers. And while it may seem challenging and disruptive, for many of us, it is the doorway to our dreams if we just surrender to the dynamics. And that is the intention of these readings every week, is for you to be able to connect with your team, your unseen team, the team of angelic beings, guides, and angels and masters that watch over you and encourage you to reach for the greatest heights that you can in this life experience. So what I've done is I've pulled 5 different spreads utilizing 3 decks. The first will be 1 card from the Kyle Gray deck, Ancestors and Angels, and it will be sort of an overview of the reading. And then I will use my messages from the angels as well as my Legend of Avalon deck to get further detail. So, and I will put the timestamps in, allow again your intuition to lead you towards which spread is most appropriate for you this week. So here I'm going to jump into reading number 1. The Kyle Gray card that I pulled for those of you that chose reading number 1 is the Warrior. Be fearless and stand strong. And if you look at him, he's got a smirk on his face. There's not an anger here. There's a serenity to his ability to be fearless and stand strong. And when I say fearless, I don't think it's the absence of fear. It's the awareness of fear and deciding that your fears could potentially be false evidence appearing real. And as you stand strong within those fears, meaning I'm just going to sit here long enough to see if this is true or false. Is what I'm fearing something I'm projecting into the future or something that's sitting here in front of me right now? And that's where I feel like the Warrior here might be indicating that you're projecting into the future rather than standing where you are now. So our first position, we pulled Archangel Michael and the Focus card, which is the foundational position for this reading. In our opportunity or the obstacle, we pulled the Frog, which represents the releasing of emotional baggage and the cleaning up of my mental house, as well as Ariel, which represents new psychic and spiritual experiences, changing the way I view myself and the world at large. In the Angel's Advice, we have the Goblin and Maya, which represents schooling and education, and the Goblin represents the human ego. In the final position, we have Serena and the Communications card. So what I have here is what I feel is most important for those of you that picked angel reading number 1 is to have the courage to see where your focus is. Oftentimes, we contemplate challenges and problems, and we think we're strategizing. We think we are thinking about them in a practical way to avoid a problem. And inadvertently, we're putting a focus on and empowering our fears to make us take actions or encourage us to take actions that don't really serve us. A bracing rather than an empowered perspective. So in the opportunity or the obstacle is our angels encouraging us to allow our spiritual experiences to give us viewpoints that move us beyond what we have known before. When the Frog talks about releasing emotional baggage, I personally don't believe releasing is possible. I believe that intertwining, interweaving, integrating the more challenging experiences I've had in this lifetime is what truly does empower me to see a greater wisdom. So when I, as the person who picked angel reading number 1, is courageous enough to look at where is my focus, that's where I have the potential of cleaning up a situation, because in the angel's advice, they're telling me that those of you that picked angel reading number 1 have an education, have an opportunity to learn about how the ego will actually edge God out. And I say that because EGO, edge God out. So let me go back to the idea of the warrior standing fearless and strong in spite of my trepidations, in spite of my concerns, and being willing to see, is the fears that I am contemplating something that is actually present in this moment, or are they a projection into the future? Because as I see where my focus is, then I realize that I don't need to necessarily worry about something, but rather see that there are times when God needs to take the next step. Source energy, my guides, my angels, and this is something I can learn. As the human, we are predisposed to produce something, to do something, to work hard, to pound the pavement, and sometimes that action is actually thwarting what it is we want to experience. Because in the final position, we have Serena, the angel of abundance, and more than anything, she talks about a serenity and a trust in God and the angels and source energy to provide whatever it is that we need, whether it's emotional, spiritual, or financial material. Because the communications card here is really what I want to focus in on. I believe that there is the potential that those of you that have picked card reading number 1 are focusing so much on you having to do something to change the situation. And going over the idea of, are my actions viable right now, or is it more about my being energy? What do I believe about the situation? Do I believe that God and the angels are able to help me? Do I truly trust in the things that I cannot see, but yet I believe, or I say I believe? Because as you give life to the idea that you could actually learn something about how you are inadvertently edging God out to produce the solution, to produce the dynamic that you're looking for. Because that is where, when I surrender to God and the angels, and I communicate not from a place of fear, but a place in trusting a bit of the unknown. It's like being in an endurance race. There is a certain, or I shouldn't say an endurance race, I feel like it's more like a baton passing. That's a better way to describe it. I've taken a certain amount of action, and now I need to pass the baton on to my teammate to run the next lap before it's my turn to get the baton back. So that's where I'm going with this. Be fearless and standing strong to see how you're communicating with spirit. If indeed you believe you must take actions because you're not seeing results. So those actions could literally be thwarting the results you want, because they're not based on faith. They're based on fear. All right, going on to reading number 2. So, for those of you that picked reading number 2, the Kyle Gray card I pulled was the wise one. Grow within your current situation. Now, the owl here, and I find it very interesting that the moon is above the owl's head. It is time to receive wisdom from above. And that wisdom comes in the form of sometimes wisdom is the result of a challenging situation. And it's in it when I look at the wise one here, and I'm being asked to grow in my current situation, I feel like I'm being asked to see a wisdom beyond the current situation, to open my heart in a way that says, I will allow my cup to fill, the moon, my intuition to feel as I deliberate between the idea of disruption actually creating a dynamic that not only brings a wisdom and experience that I can take into my future, but also creates a material experience that supports that dynamic. So in the first position, we have Archangel Raphael offering a healing, a physical healing through an illumination, but it's joined with the mystery card. I must choose to allow this physical healing to take place. I must choose to declare that I am willing to grow within this current situation. And the growth is not about I want to say it this way, it can be a bit effortless in its in applying that wisdom, as I'm willing to see that disruption sometimes serves me. So in my opportunity and or my obstacle is Grace and Antoinette, the angels of compassion. Compassion is without a doubt probably on the same par as the love vibration, because compassion sees wisdom through challenge. And it's also asking you to be optimistic and to have creative action. And the creative action, I don't think, is about taking action. It's going back to Archangel Michael, illuminating my choices in a situation. And the angels are asking me to turn over my insecurities and to look at how I communicate from a deeper truth. Sometimes we speak our truth based on what we think we can experience. We take our history in this human journey that we know, who we are today, and we assess whether or not our dreams are viable as a result of that history. And oftentimes our dreams are much more viable than our history would indicate. So now I need to be willing to have compassion with myself as I go deeper into seeing where I may be only purporting a shallow version of my truth, a smaller version versus a bigger version that I need God and the angels support, guidance, and in some ways illumination in order to walk the path to a bigger experience. Because in the final position is Daniel, the angel of marriage, and there's the high priestess. Daniel often, more times than not, will talk about the story that I tell myself as I walk this human experience. It talks about my history in relationships. And I could go to a marriage partner, but I don't believe this is straight up about marriage. I believe it's about partnerships in general, and having a version of, in my mind, of that partnership that I may not have experienced on the earthly plane. The idea of growing within the current situation is a willingness to see how my choices and how my perceptions are shaping my experience. And rather than standing in an energy of having to be correct or right, it's about opening up through compassion that this experience of challenge could be the manure that is being put on the garden that grows your flowers, your seeds more efficiently, more flavorfully, more colorfully. There's much being offered here as you surrender to being illuminated, to allowing yourself not to shut down during disruption, but rather say to yourself, I am willing to see how my perceptions contribute to my experience. And in doing so, I get to open up to a bigger experience, because then I've now moved any of my fears, any of my trepidations into a place to empower myself. All right, let's go on to angel reading number 3. For those of you that picked angel reading number 3, the overall card is the Earth Guardian. Stay grounded and rooted. Stay rooted and grounded. And I believe this is in my heart chakra, because look at his hand over his heart. This is very much about bringing the intangible into the tangible through my thought process. We see this emerald in his third eye, the emerald being this jewel that illuminates my heart chakra. And we see the white of his wings, which to me, as we see the dimension, the sort of tan, brown, beiges, it shows me that this Earth Guardian has experienced muddied waters and yet has stayed true to his heart. And he's holding a staff, and the staff also has feathers on it. It has a dream catcher. So it is through the Earth Guardian's connection to the earth realm angels, the fairies, the unseen that govern the earthly plane. And in many ways, this is the rootedness comes from knowing this heart leads the way. The heart leads the perception. The heart leads the action, even if the heart is in fear. So our first set of angels is the movement card and Seraphina. A happy change is coming to your family. The idea of family, I'm a single woman. I've been single all of my life. So, when I think of my family, I think of the committee inside my mind. I think of my relationship with my beast, my dog. And so this happy change that's being offered to you is staying rooted and grounded in your heart chakra while the world is still in disruption. We are still in the year 2020. We're still in the midst of much chaos. And I want to put it that way because the world is in unprecedented dynamics. We're being locked down. Our freedoms are being taken away from us, and not because we're being bad, but what our government, the parent of our countries, think is best for us. And sometimes we may not perceive that as being best for us. So being able to stay rooted in a bigger picture of things, that there is movement beyond what I can see that's actually moving me towards a greater experience aligned to my joy, to my heart. Because here we have the Earth Fairy connected to the Earth Guardian, again, staying rooted and grounded. And that happens as I lovingly assert myself into a bigger picture of things. This feels almost as if those of you that picked reading number 3 are going to be standing on a conception, standing on an idea, standing on something that they can't necessarily see in the earth, on the earth plane, in the material, but yet is being teed up to be experienced in the material. Because the angels are saying they're leading you towards the answers to your prayers, but in many ways, it's because you've bowed down to a deeper truth of what you want, of what you have intended as a soul to experience on this planet. And I believe those of us that are on this planet, living right now, are aware of, or we're on a soul's level, aware of the challenges that this period of time may create. But when we observe them from our soul's perspective, we didn't focus on the challenges. We focused on the backside of those challenges and the opportunities that it would offer us. If I take the dynamic of just, up until now, we've been working 40 hours a week, having to go to a place, a brick and mortar house, in order to do our jobs. And as a result of the disruption of 2020, many of us have been able to recalibrate our jobs and work from home. And a balance of that working from home and working in another location may be something that has brought us closer to what we would really prefer, although it's coming through disruption. That's kind of the example I want to give. Because in the final position, here we have the restriction card representing our governments and our curfews and our being asked to quarantine. And then the patience card says, now is a time to learn, to gather, to study. And that studying is really more about our own perceptions, our own beliefs, our own experience of what this period of time has offered us. So where I'm going with this is, as I stay rooted in a bigger picture, as I stay knowing that I myself as an individual have an intention, and that intention is supported by spirit, and I focus in on that, then I'm offered movement. But in that way, I want to say the movement comes because I'm now trusting as I lovingly assert myself, because I'm bowing down to a deeper truth where spirit is leading me to that. And rather than having to see that truth right over there and know it's there, I'm knowing it from my heart. And the restriction is giving me an opportunity to observe how I process, and thereby empowering me to a bigger picture. I hope that made sense. Let's go on to reading number 4. Our Kyle Gray card, for those of you that picked reading number 4, is the Spirit Fox. And it says, trust your talents in changing times. I love it. The fox represents the ability to be adaptable. The fox can adapt itself to an urban environment as well as a city environment, knowing when it's safe to come out and when to be more stealth. And I feel like also when I look at this, there is an interesting symbol, which I would say, I don't know if you can see it on the card, there we go, right? What I would call is almost between the heart chakra and the throat chakra on this animal. And I feel like there's something there. And the idea of these feathers really hits me because it has a very Native American feel to me. And I feel like those feathers represent pulling my perspective up. Always, winged animals are always going to pull me up and give me a broader sense of seeing things. This symbol over my heart, while I'm not familiar with what the symbol actually means, it feels like it's almost this sort of wheel that's asking me to create an energy ball through my heart and then pull myself up. And in the first position, for those of you that picked angel reading number 4, we have a new beginning starting. This is the birth and the rebirth card, and we have Merlina saying you're confused and indecisive because you don't have enough information. And that's where I want to go back to trusting my talents in changing times. Those talents don't necessarily have to be artistic talents. They could be financial talents. They could be organizational talents. They could be so many dynamics that you take for granted because they are natural to you. And as you trust those talents, then Spirit is offering you a rebirth. But it isn't about something that is completely new to you. It's something that is based on what you already have experience at and prowess at. And as you allow that research to be exploring new options rather than old options, taking those talents and applying them in a new area, I feel like we're going to start to see some traction. In our opportunity and our obstacle is the deer, which is talks about gentleness and diplomacy on the face of the card. And then there's Ray. And Ray is the angel to me that connects to Spirit through meditation. This, on the face of the card, it talks about yoga and exercise being essential to your well-being, but she's in a meditative position with her power chakra connected to her third eye, along with her heart chakra represented by the green stripe and her throat chakra represented by the blue stripe. So as you stay gentle and diplomatic with yourself and connect with Spirit, because Spirit is where you will do your research and where you will get your answers. And part of that is going back to your talents and nurturing your talents during the unsureness. Because in the angel's advice is victory being offered to you and the shedding of a skin and knowledge and healing. And I say it in healing in a way where it feels like it makes sense. At the end of the day, when I trusted my talents and I didn't know if they would support me in the way that I want, but I continued to move forward, evidence started to reveal itself. And that's where we actually get to shed a new skin, and we start to solidify the knowledge that comes only from our connection to Spirit and from our heart. Because in the final position, I have Akasha, the spiritual teacher, and I have the swan, which is transformation. And it's transformation from, for me, the ugly duckling to the swan, where your perceptions, where you thought you were ugly, you now feel talented, you feel evolved. And that evolution comes from trusting an inner knowing about what you know you're capable of versus what you've actually demonstrated you're capable of. So to me, this is a very powerful, and yet I'm still standing in a bit of the unknown. I'm still having to trust a deeper part of myself that I have no history with just yet. And as I trust that, I get an opportunity to create material experiences that then support that trust of my talents and start to give me a sense of history, a sense of transformation that allows me to learn and then thereby teaching others through my experience. And when I say teaching, it's not about standing in front of a podium and talking knowledge. It's about me standing and trusting my talents and other people observing that. And then through that experience, lighting a light bulb or igniting an idea within their mind that if they trusted their talents, maybe they would also start to see evidence of success, evidence of viability, evidence of achieving their dreams. All right, that's what I have for those of you that picked angel reading number 4. Now we'll go on to our final reading, number 5. And we have the Druid. The Druid talks about holding space. And we see this quartz crystal at the top of his staff, and it is illuminating his path. And I find this interesting because the Druid is depicted as an elder, and the elder would walk more slowly, allowing himself to be illuminated as he walks along his path. That holding space to me is never about actually experiencing something. It is the in-between place between the inception of an idea, the inception of something I want to experience, and the actual experiencing of it. So in our foundational position, we have Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress. So focus in on how it feels when you get where you want to go. Because the spider card to me always represents a relationship of some kind. I usually think of it as my realtor's card, but I think this is in regards to the relationship you have with your own vision of where you can be, what you can achieve, and what you can experience. And there's a certain amount of unknowing, which is why the Druid is asking you to hold space. Go into how it feels once you've experienced that. How would it feel when you had all the money you wanted? How will it feel when you're in the relationship you want to be in? Because in the obstacle and or the opportunity, we have the light worker and the letting go card. And basically what this light, the Indriel talks about is shining your light. We see the illumination again above the mind, above the head in the upper chakras. And then we have the letting go card. That letting go card for me is very much akin to the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. And what I'm free of is the gripping of fear. I'm now free and starting to contemplate whether fear is really fear or whether it's false evidence appearing real. So in the angel's advice, we have Vanessa and the hawk. Vanessa straight up says, are you going to make your decisions based on faith or fear? And the hawk for me is about rising above a situation and seeing a more broad perspective. And maybe there's something that fear has to offer me. Maybe as I walk through that fear, I will feel empowered like I've never known before. Maybe I will achieve. And as I rise above that fear, I recognize how I participate in it. In the final position, we have Rosetta, the angel of children, parenting, teaching, and guiding children. And then we have the water fairy. And for me, I could say this is about children, but I don't think so. I think for those of you that picked angel reading number 5, I feel like the Druid has encouraged you to hold space so that spirit can illuminate a path that you are unsure of. I feel like you are learning where your own thoughts and your own focus has blocked you. And now you're coming into partnership with it. So you're really starting to step away from that fear and standing in a place where maybe there's more to the story than I can see with my own human eyes. So spirit is pulling my eyesight up and helping me to stand in more faith as I think there may be things I can't see. And then I adopt a childlike innocence to trust my intuitions, to trust the joy that I can imagine when I'm experiencing what I want on this planet. I really believe that the year 2020 and moving into this decade is going to offer humanity an opportunity to step more into alignment with their soul's intention. And it will be something that we see more tangibly on this planet, something we give more life to. And through this experience, we start to view the earth plane and its challenges, its gray spots, its darker spots, as opportunities. The opportunity for fear to truly empower me, for me to feel achievement, because there would be no achievement, no empowerment without fear. The act of bravery, the act of courage, the act of being able to stand in my fears and rather than run from them or to acquiesce to them, but see how they could illuminate me, to see how they could empower me. That is the gift that fear has to offer. That is the contrast that we come here for, unknowingly once we've come under the veil of the human. Because when we're in spirit, we know everything is possible. And then we go into the human body, and as we align within the human body to the deeper part of who we are, that's where nirvana comes in. That's where we surrender to the challenges and realize that they're working for us instead of against us. So that's it for this week. This is your angel readings for the week of December 7th, 2020. I'll be back next Monday with more Pick an Angel spread readings. I'm losing my words right now. I hope you have a wonderful week. Next Monday will be a new moon eclipse in Sagittarius, so that'll be very exciting. And if you want to know more about that, you can look at the December heavenly horoscopes. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. If you'd like to get a personal session with me, you can find my information in the description. And that's about it. Okay, have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next week. Peace out.